Welcome to the Tuning In podcast, where we talk alignment, intuition, and our internal guidance system. We cover woo-woo topics in an approachable and practical way. I'm your host, Dana Evans of Alignful.com. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Tuning In podcast. This is episode 133. And today, I'm sharing the story of the aligned flow to Santa Fe. So if you listened to last week's episode 132, I shared my major life update. And that's that John and I are moving. We are moving to Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's mostly for his new job. And we've known about this move for a year now, but I'm just sharing it because things really have been kind of up in the air, and I just didn't want to share it before things were like really solidified and clear. But this is a major move. We have lived in our current place for 12 years. We were both born and raised in Colorado. And right after college, we lived in Golden together, and then we bought this place that we're in now 12 years ago. So we have not had a ton of adventure in terms of our living situations. I did go to school in Boston. I went to college in Boston, and then I lived in LA for 6 months. But beyond that, Colorado. So for the first time ever, we are moving out of state together. We are building a new home, and it's pretty amazing. I'm obsessed with the process of building and getting to pick everything out. I mean, it's like a semi-custom home, but it's a very small builder, which I love in a community that is pretty amazing. So the small builder means that they are letting me do a lot of tweaks that would, with a bigger developer, they would definitely not allow for like a preset floor plan. But I'm getting to make a lot of these fun decisions. And the neighborhood, oh my gosh, it's called a dark sky community, which there's different classifications of this, of dark sky areas. There's certain like monuments or whatever throughout the US that places are classified as this. And it has to do with like the pollution and the clarity of being able to see the stars at night and light pollution specifically. I'm not sure like where our neighborhood fits on the classification list, but they do consider themselves a dark sky community in that they have certain rules about how much light, like the outdoor lights have to be a certain way, like the height of the homes are a certain way. And that is so that they're not putting off light pollution, and that at night it's really crystal clear and you can see the stars. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Because Santa Fe itself is actually at 7,000 feet. So we'll be just under 7,000 feet in our neighborhood, which is higher. We're about like 62 or 6,300 feet here in Colorado, in Golden, where we live. And so contrary to popular belief, yes, New Mexico is a desert and it's very mountainous. And so Albuquerque is going to be a lot flatter, a lot more deserty, but drive an hour north and you're in Santa Fe, and it's more of like a high altitude desert type situation. They do get snow, but they don't get the same storms that we get in Colorado. It does get cold, but it doesn't seem to snap as cold as it gets in Colorado. And it has a nice warm summer, but it's not quite as hot as Colorado. So we're going to get the 4 seasons, and it's, I think, overall just going to be a little bit more mild than Colorado, even though it's still high altitude. So that's kind of fun because I love our seasons. I love snow. They do have a monsoon season with rain, which I think will be really fun. And of course, spring and summer and fall. Fall I'm actually most excited about because that's when they roast the hatch chili peppers and they burn a lot of the pinyon pines, which are these cute little stubby pine trees that they have there. And they smell amazing. Those who are in the first round of the emotional edit, I sent everyone a pinyon pine incense stick. Oh my God. It's just like the best smell. Like the whole town just like smells like burning pinyon pines. Oh, it's delicious. So it's so beautiful. So we have the dark sky community, and also our community, they keep a 50-50 ratio of development to open space. And John and I very much care about open space. We don't want to live in the city. We've never wanted to live in a city. Our current neighborhood has gotten like really developed. And so it's lost some of the spaciousness. But it's cool that this neighborhood, this developer owns, hundreds and hundreds of acres of land that they can develop, but they're keeping this 50% open space ratio. And with that, they have miles and miles and miles and miles of walking paths and trails, actual trails for like hiking, walking, running. And it's going to be different, but also really beautiful. We visited there 5 times in the last year. I think I've gone 6 actually, or 7. I've gone a couple times without, I think I've gone 3 times without John. And every time I go, it just feels more and more like home. But honestly, the first time we went, it felt very comfortable. It felt like a really nice transition for us of, we've been wanting something a little more chill for a while. Like Colorado's fucking hopping, and Colorado has a lot to offer. We love it here. It's gorgeous. And also we've been wanting a bit of a slower pace without losing a ton of amenities. Like that's more me. I'm like, I want to have access to Whole Foods. Like I want to have access to some of the nicer things. I want to have the things that I like. I want to be able to get mail, right? But also it to be a little bit more chill. And so we'd been looking for a while at moving to Buena Vista, Colorado, and hadn't quite pulled the trigger when we found out about this job and this move. So it really has a lot that we have to offer. Like we're still in the Southwest, or well, it's more Southwest than West. Colorado's more West, but so we still have the West, which we like. We like the dry weather. We like the mountains and the people. Like it's a good vibe. And it's less busy, like way less busy. It's kind of a sleepy, like Santa Fe is a little sleepy. It is a big tourist area, so we will get some energy from tourists. We started meeting some locals, like the local people, some younger people like our age, but it's definitely a lot sleepier. It's just quiet. And you can feel when you get there, just that slower pace of life. So when like the first time we visited, I was like, ooh, I kind of like I'm vibing with this. Like I feel at home. It's not so drastically different, right? That it's going to feel like this like big shock. It's not like we're moving to New York City or Vermont or Texas or California or Oregon. Like all those places are like microclimates that have like very specific personalities. We like Colorado's personality. We like the West. And so I think it's going to be a nice transition that's giving us what we want, more of what we want in a new environment. So that's been really interesting. And I guess I'm just talking to you guys about the move. I hope that's okay. I have not, I just haven't shared this much. So this is just like my download. One thing that I'm really drawn to about Santa Fe is the food. We have eaten so well when we've gone down there. The restaurants are amazing. The pricing feels really reasonable. And there's a big focus on local ingredients, which I just love. And I, of course, very much appreciate. And I already did some research. There's a composting company that will pick up our compost, which is something we do here, like our kitchen scraps and stuff. Like I have a weekly compost pickup. So I already found one of those. There's a really cool co-op that you can be a part of that has really delicious local foods. I also found a really great organic produce delivery service that collects from local farms. I found a raw milk ranch or whatever you call it. So we'll be able to get our raw milk and cream. And one thing that we struggle with here, especially in Golden, is that one, we're in like a dead zone where we can't really get things delivered. And if we want to-go food, we just end up getting pizza, burritos, and Thai food. Like that's about all we get as our to-go food. And there's not a ton of places that have like healthy easy to access to go options that I'm like happy with that aren't also stupidly priced. So I'm excited because as we've been going to Santa Fe, like we've found some really great restaurants that we can easily eat at, of course, because it's not freaking busy and you can't get in anywhere. And also that we can just like grab and pick up to go food. And our house is in a great location where it's in a community, so it's outside of the city, but it's about 15 minutes from the heart of the city. So we just pop on the highway, pop on I-25, and we get into Santa Fe really quite easily. So I'm really happy about that because it's like we're away, but we still have like Whole Foods, 12 minutes away. Our favorite restaurants, like 15 minutes away. The Rail Yard District, like 17 minutes away. So we're going to have everything very accessible while also being set away. And then, of course, we have Los Alamos is up there. That's like 45 minutes away. Taos is like an hour and a half away. And then Santa Fe Ski Mountain is 30 minutes away. Y'all know I can ski now. There's a ton of great little ski areas that are, again, not going to be so freaking busy. We're Colorado. We don't even go up to the mountains because it's so busy. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And also the people we have met in our trips there. So I was in Albuquerque a couple of weeks ago doing some final design decisions for our house, like our countertops, which I think I shared last week. I don't remember. So I was there for like 36 hours or something. At the end, I went to this little brewery, grabbed some lunch at this adorable place for food to take on the plane. And then I went to a brewery to kill an hour and do a little work before my flight took off. And I was talking to the bartender and he had lived in Golden. And I was like, well, what do you think about Colorado? And we were just like talking about it. And I said, you know what? Here's how I feel about everyone that I've met here so far. I just feel like there's this openness in the heart that I've been missing. And maybe it's me, right? Maybe it's my energy in Colorado. Like I feel like it's gotten a little routine and dull for myself. I'm looking for a change. And so maybe when I come to New Mexico, like I'm magnetized and like creating that energy. And also I feel like I'm receiving that energy from the people that I meet. So I really appreciate that. Okay, so that's just like a little bit about the move. Now I finally wrote the story of the move and how it like kind of flowed and has unfolded to date. And I would like to share that with you. And I'm going to start in the middle of the story just to give you some context for where I was at mentally. And then we'll kind of zoom out into how we got there in the first place. So without further ado, here is the aligned flow of our move to Santa Fe. I remember spending the morning finalizing the details for our town home and obsessing over the floor plan. I had just gotten used to the idea of the second floor entertainment room and not having a dedicated office space. This will work. I love it. I had the contract in hand. Like I was just sitting there visualizing. I'd walked through the model home again and I'm like, okay, this is going to work. Like this is how things are going to get set up. Like things weren't quite what we wanted layout wise, but I had gotten on board. It's like we were doing this. We'd gone to this place before. This was our second time. And we'd looked and looked and looked and looked. And this was really the only area that it was like the best we could do, we thought. It was the best we could do for what we wanted. It was the closest that we could have. I told the agent, Susan, that we'd confirmed with her that night. She was the sales rep for this complex. And I was like, all right, Susan, thank you. You're amazing. I'll confirm with you. As I left, John was just returning from his run. Sweaty, thirsty, and honestly, he was kind of looking glum, which is not common when he returns home from a run. So I asked him, I was like, love, what's wrong? He got into the car and he's like, let's just drive around. Because here's the deal. This wasn't any old run. It was a test run. Before we had started looking for a new home in a new state, we had set very specific criteria, our non-negotiables. And having a beautiful running path was one of them. You see, the place we had chosen met most of our criteria, but John wasn't quite sure yet about the run. And so this is what he was doing. And he wasn't just looking for a running path that was nearby, because this place actually had some really great trails nearby. But he didn't want to be able to have to get into the car and drive to a path. He wanted one that he could access on foot from our home. At the end of a long workday, right? The last thing he wants to do is get in a car and drive to a running location. He wants to just put his clothes on and head out. So we're driving, and he looks at me in the car and he said, "That run sucked. I had to navigate busy streets. I was looking at box stores and trash along the way. Honestly, it feels like my blood pressure rose and it didn't fall during the run." To me, translation, we can't move here. With that, we started heading to Santa Fe Brewing to discuss more. On the way, we actually passed the original neighborhood that we were eyeing. So when I said that this area that we chose was like the best we could do for what we wanted, I meant it. We had spent weeks looking in this one area. Like John had found it. We were looking around and we just couldn't find any new builds or houses for sale that met our criteria. Like occasionally there was a house that came up for sale, but it would be really old or really expensive or just like not our vibe. For example, we wanted 3 bathrooms and like no houses had 3 bathrooms, including the one we built. We had to add a bathroom. It was like 3 beds, 2 bathrooms, 4 beds, 2 bathrooms. And we were really clear about wanting a 3rd bathroom. So we're driving, we passed this original neighborhood, which we actually hadn't been to yet because we're like, well, it's a giant tease because there's nothing available here. And John said, "Hey, can we just drive around here? Like, let's see what it's like." I honestly was like, done. I had run out of energy. I was so thirsty. I was hungry. I was tired. Like, I hadn't packed snacks and food and like all the things we needed to be out for an entire day. But whatever. I was like, fine, just drive. As we were driving, I kid you not, we see a sign that said, "New builds this way." Like, what? We had checked this neighborhood's website many times and saw zero indication that they had new builds available at all. So we literally followed the signs into an adorable new build out neighborhood. Like there was a new freaking neighborhood that was being built and a sign that said sales office. I was like, oh shit. So we parked, we walked into the sales office. And that was like a second sign, right? Sign 1 was we literally saw a sign. Sign 2, we drove into this cute neighborhood that was like sales office. Sign 2. As we walk into the sales office, an older man turned to look at us, and I literally had to do a double take. He looked like John's family, like the men of John's family, a Mosley. Specifically, he kind of looked like John's dad, like maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit more worn down. But he looked like him. He had these beautiful blue eyes, this bright white hair, a certain nose, and the Mosley jaw. And it was so trippy. I was like, this feels like a sign. So the sales rep told us all about the neighborhood, right? He told us that it was 15 minutes from downtown Santa Fe, that it was surrounded by mountains, pinyon pines. It had the bright blue sky. He told us that it was quiet and had over 12 miles of walking and hiking trails built in. Right? That it's the dark sky neighborhood that I told you about that prioritizes 50% open space, right? Translation to us, this builder cares about nature and not just profit. They also talked about that they're looking at building a solar array in the neighborhood that will help fuel the community, which John literally is a solar engineer. Like he works in research and development of solar. We were really excited. Also, we could put solar panels on our house. In the townhome that we were going to be building, that wasn't an option because we were sharing a wall. So we looked at the house layouts. Oh my God, they were beautiful. Way more Santa Fe than the ones we just came from. Again, that was another thing. Like I wanted to work within the vibe of where we were moving. The townhomes that we were looking at, like they were really pretty and they felt very clean and new. And they didn't feel particularly Santa Fe, right? Like that townhome could be here in Colorado. It could be in California. Like it didn't have the Santa Fe energy, which to me, I wanted. Again, I was like, well, I guess we just can't have it. But they were very Santa Fe with the beautiful adobe and the stucco and more of the earthy colors. The townhomes we were moving into were like blue and white. And I'm like, no, I want the earthy. Like I'm ready to embrace the Santa Fe aesthetic. So we also were going to be able to build from scratch, like pick a floor plan, pick a lot, and build a house. And to our surprise, the home was within our budget. That is until I took control of designing everything that was out of scope. You know what, though? It's like, got to start somewhere, right? So the sales rep then informed us that the next wave of houses were being released through a lottery in a few months. So we added ourselves to the list of 100 plus names, knowing there was no guarantee. That was like a big thing. He's like, there's going to be lots released in the next couple of months, and it's a total lottery system. We don't fucking know how it works. We wrote our name on a piece of paper that I had really no trust that ever got entered into a computer. I will say this sales rep, who I won't name, and the whole kind of developer is a lot slower, more old school, not quite up with the times, which, has presented its own challenges, but it's also ended up presenting a lot of advantages in that, like, they're very amicable and like letting me do what I want. So there was like this initial surge of excitement. We went through the model. We were like, wow, this is pretty amazing. It's beautiful. It's what we want. It's a single floor plan. So no upstairs or downstairs. And it just was like cool. It was kind of outdated. I was like, but I can fix that. I can make it modern Santa Fe. So we left. And as we walked out the door, I have to be honest, like I felt a heaviness in my heart. And we started to just drive around the neighborhood. And as we did, we both really sensed that this was our place. This is where we were meant to move. But I was sad. I had just gotten fully on board with the other home, the townhome. Like I was all in. We had talked about it and like made this decision for weeks. And we were on this trip to literally commit to that townhome and to buy it. That townhome was actually already, everything was already picked out and it was going to be built. I was just energetically on board. I had made the decision. And we knew, since everything had already been picked out and they were already starting with building, it was one of the last ones to be built in that neighborhood. It was going to be ready by October, and this was March. And we're like, wow, we could just like move down there. Whereas this place that we had found, there was no guarantee we would get a lot, and they wouldn't even be released until June. I looked at John, and honestly, I just cried. Surprise. Are we surprised that Dana cried during a pivotal moment? No, we are not. That is what I do. It's a lot of emotion lurking around in here. And he said to me, it's okay. We love this place and it is so much more us. And he was right. Though I did have trouble allowing this truth. I needed something like, yes, there were already like 3 signs, but I just needed something that felt like the universe being like, yes, Dana, this is it. Even though we know the story of like, you're asking for a sign and you're being like slapped in the face with them, but you want the bigger sign, the bigger sign, the bigger sign. I was like, I just need to feel it, that this is right. And as we stopped the car to look at one of the outdoor home layouts to like see what it might look like, looked to my right, and sitting in a tree, literally like 4 feet from the car, was a hawk. Just sitting in this tree, like usually the hawks are like way up high. It was in like just a maple tree that was all dead. There were no leaves. And the hawk was just sitting there looking at us. And oh my God, a hawk is like very much John and my like joint spirit animal. We have some hawks who live near us here and we really love them. We got binoculars so we can watch them. Just like a very special bird to us. And I saw that. I was like, holy shit, John, look at this fucking hawk. It sent chills through my body and a new wave of tears. But this time the tears were different. These tears were tears of release, relief, and knowing that John was right and this is our neighborhood. So right then and there, we decided to take the leap. By saying no to the other house, we were closing the door to that opportunity because, as I said, it was one of the last ones available. And after all that looking, it was really the only area and place that we wanted to move besides this area. It was like we were very much closing a door. And we were saying yes to the universe and to trust, hoping, believing that we would get a lot when the next wave of lots were released. So we left that March trip, so this was a year ago, to Santa Fe with clarity but no answers. And also excited that we had found the place that met all of our criteria. So fast forward to June, and there was still no news on the lots. I continued to reach out to the sales rep. Mostly, I just didn't hear ever from him. But finally, I heard back and he said, well, they probably won't be ready until August now. And we're like, shit. Because originally we were supposed to move within the first year of John's job. That eventually was released and we could get down whenever, but we were trying to get there by March of 2023. So we were a little defeated and alignment continued to show up. So very conveniently, John's parents, who live in Arizona, were driving from Phoenix through Santa Fe to visit us in June. And they wanted to see the neighborhood that we were so excited about. So they stopped by and they went to the sales office to check out the model and to see the homes. Well, the sales rep happened to be there because I want to say happened because, again, no guarantees at this place. You just don't know. It's kind of a whatever goes type of situation. But he was there and he informed them quite randomly, I may add, that there was actually one lot available in an already developed part of the neighborhood, which we would later realize was the same street that we saw the hawk on from that March trip. So he's talking to John's parents. He's like, because they were like, hey, my son and his wife were coming down. They were really hoping to get a lot. We heard that it's moved to August. Like, what's going on? And he says, well, it's funny you should be here and say this because there might be a lot available. The owner of the lot has until Friday, which was 2 days from when they were there on Wednesday, to decide if he's going to keep it or release it. And if he doesn't want it, would your son and his wife like it? John's mom, dead stare. John's dad, the salesman and doppelganger to this other salesman, absolutely. Let's talk numbers. So John's parents call us. They're like, do you want a lot that might be available Friday? We're like, holy shit, yes. Oh my God, thank you. So Friday comes. Of course, we had not heard from the sales rep. Of course, we hadn't heard from him. So I think on Saturday, we finally got a hold of him and he was confused. And he said, oh, you want that lot? We're like, God damn it, yes. Well, how did you forget already? And he said, well, actually, yeah, the guy decided he didn't want it. And so, sure, you can have it. Do not ask me about the hundreds of people on the wait list who were all ahead of us. How or why this sales rep decided to offer us the lot, like, it's all just beyond me. I do not know. Thank you, universe, for arranging this for us. And the fact that John's parents arrived the same week that this other guy decided to release a lot. Like, you cannot plan this shit, right? You just have to flow with it. Like, this is surrendering to divine intervention. So we get the lot, we get the contract. There was only one type of house we could build on it. So we're like, great, that's the one we want. And John and I headed down in July then to have our first design meeting. And as I said, things were moving very slowly from there. again, universe is like, you want a slower pace of life? Here's your practice time because this has tested my patience. So after a lot of harassment, or I mean, rather intentional communication from me, things finally started moving along. And it's been a slow road, a lot of like confusion, but ultimately a lot of me getting exactly what I want, which is a belief I have, is I get the things I want. And I do believe we'll be moving in this summer, possibly before. I'm actually calling the builder today to see what the progress was, because I went down a couple weeks ago and again, it was all framed up. Our vigas, our beams arrived, our windows were being put in. I finalized the countertops and the floors and the bathroom tiling, and all that's decided now. And I think things are going to move like really fast. I had a dream the other day that I called the builder and he's like, your house will be ready in 11 days. I was like, oh shit. Because of course we're now updating our house because we're going to be selling our house. And of course that's going to work out well as well, right? We're going to sell our house for the price I want. We're going to find buyers really easily, probably the first weekend that we list it. And then the timing will be so that we don't even have to live somewhere else. We'll be able to close and move out of our house and right into our brand new, beautiful Santa Fe home, which is exciting. So I've had, as I said, the pleasure of designing all elements of our home. Oh my God. I told you, like, while it's technically like a pre-built situation, I think they call them track homes that has minimal options to change. The small builder has been extremely accommodating to me. Most of my special requests were implemented. I swear, every time I call the builder, which is not the sales guy, I actually made a request to not work through this salesperson anymore because it was just too frustrating. And the builder just has been working with me directly. Thank you. Happy thank you more, please. But every time I call him, I'm like, Cass, I had a vision. Have you ever done this? To which he usually says, yeah, sure. Let me tell you how much more that will cost. So the investment has definitely caused some stress for me. However, knowing myself and John, I know how important our home and our space is, right? We both live, work, cook, work out, and socialize or anti-socialize in our home. We both want to feel safe, cozy, contained, and like we're in a beautiful environment that feels safe. And I actually decided on a mantra to help with this, which is the more I invest in my home, the more my home gives back to me. And I feel that way both about our current home. Like I bought all new appliances a couple weeks ago because again, we need to get this place dolled up so it will sell well. I'm going to get the walls painted, like all this cleanup. Well, that's going to give back to us literally in what people will pay for the home, right? And then in our new home, like as I'm choosing these beautiful, like the quartzite countertops, right? As I'm choosing these beautiful little upgrades, big upgrades, the positioning of the windows, like all these little things, I know that the more we love our home, the more the home will give us in terms of like clients and alignment. And I just truly believe this. And it has really helped. I haven't gone crazy with our build, but I've really realized that this is my opportunity to create my space. In fact, we've lived here for 12 years and I've hardly done anything super personal in our home except our bedroom. I'm not sure why. And I actually thought like I didn't really have an aesthetic or a style when it comes to my home. Well, wrong. Turns out I have a very specific aesthetic and style. And it was just waiting for Santa Fe. Like I looked at my home Pinterest board that I've built out since, and it had so many of the things. Like I had this like rust colored velvet couch, and like so many of the elements that I loved were really just meant for our Santa Fe home. Like how cool is that? I didn't even know. And so I've really realized, like at first when I picked out my bathroom and my kitchen, I chose white quartz countertops, marble bathroom with gray floors. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with that. I just realized that that's the aesthetic that I see a lot of and I like it. But I also realize it's not me. Like I have a quirky personality. I love color. I love punch. I love luxury, but like modern, colorful luxury. I want my home to feel like a cozy, bohemian Santa Fe hug. And so that's why I went down a couple of weeks ago to re-pick out counters and the bathroom because I was like, oh, I'm just choosing like kind of the standard, oh, this makes things look nice vibe. I want to choose Dana's vibe. Like, I want this house to feel like we're living there and it has some quirk and some funk. So, like, I'm doing some cool things. Like, in the powder room, I'm going to put this pretty wallpaper up. And then I'm doing like a cool little herringbone brick in the powder room, which is the bathroom we added. We also added a tiny little area off the garage, extended the garage out. That's going to be like John's little workout space. We added the powder room. Oh my God. I got my beautiful, gorgeous tub in the bathroom, in the master bathroom. And he let me move the shower drain. I was like, I want Riverstone floors. And I don't want the center shower drain. I want like the one that's like long and skinny and on the edge. And he's like, okay. So I picked out my Riverstone floors and I have some gorgeous teal towel. I think I shared this last week, but the point is I've made it my own. And that was another big difference with the townhome we were going to be moving into was kind of going to be like the one that we were living in now, right? So it would feel safe. It was a 2-story and all the selections were already chosen. But they were kind of generic, like they are just generic nice. And this is the first time I'm getting to build my home. And, hopefully we'll be there for a while. John and I aren't big like moving people. So why not make it ours and make it beautifully our own? And I realized like it's not really the time to sacrifice core elements that matter to us, right? So investing in our home is an investment in ourselves. The more we spend on our home, the more we will make when we live there. It's such a fun mantra. It's such a fun view. It's making the experience of creating this home so much more enjoyable. And I trust that this home will provide and support us. And it'll be the exact environment that we need to flourish. We're going to have a guest room where we're going to be able to host people. After all, right, this home came to us in flow and alignment. And for that, I'm internally grateful and so excited for what this next phase means, right? What's on our way with something that aligns so well. Like you can only imagine that magic is meant to happen in that space. So I'm very excited to see what that means, how that unfolds, and for the rest of the alignment, right, and flow that will come as we finish getting our current house ready, as we put that on the market, as we actually move and get to furnish our home and really create this aesthetic. Like my office is going to be like an office lounge. I love a merged room, right? I have my cloffice right now. But, I learned that from my cousin, Sherry, years ago. She lived in this 3-story building in Boston. And I lived with her for a while. And she turned the top floor into a penthouse outdoor lounge. And she called it the Falounge. And so I got to live there and sit on the roof deck in the Falounge. So I love the merging of space. That will be like a cocktail, coffee, cozy, luxury, like lounge space. And my office and podcast recording. We'll have a pretty patio. I want to get a barrel sauna. And of course, our bedroom has like a cool little nook, which I wasn't sure about at first, but now I'm into with like double windows. So it's like this little inlet, which I think I'll put like my yoga mat there, tons of plants, a sheepskin rug for Mia. I'll have my beautiful tub. Our kitchen, I chose the most gorgeous, moody energy quartzite counters that I've ever seen. Like they're like spoke to me. To me, it looks like a canyon with like water flowing through it. It's a vibe. We chose tile floor that looks like wood, like a beechwood plank. Yeah, it's going to be warm neutral. So very excited for that. Very excited to share more on the podcast and on Instagram. Now I get to talk about it. And if you have any questions about the flow or anything, let me know. And I'm so excited I get to record this episode. I've been literally thinking about this for a year since we saw that hawk. I was like, this is going to be such a fluid process. And I can't wait to share about it. And here we are, all in good time. So thank you as always for listening. I hope this was inspiring and like a reminder that the things that we want us. I think that's a Rumi quote. What we want wants us. And when we can like soften and trust and also take the aligned actions, right? Like had John not said, I want to drive around, like who knows where we would be, right? Like we are following those nudges that we got internally and we get to enjoy, right? Enjoy what came from that and what is to come from more of that. So with that, thank you as always for listening. I fucking love sharing this journey with y'all. I love sharing on the podcast. And if this would resonate with anyone you know, please send it their way. Of course, always reviews on iTunes make a huge difference. So you can rate and review on iTunes. And if you have a story of your own house flow, I would love to hear it. Two of my projector gal friends literally have had recently, they're both moving in March and they both have had like really fluid house move stories as well. So just know it's possible and it can be really magical. And just like my wedding, you don't have to listen to everyone else's input on how hard the fucking process is because it doesn't have to be that way. And you don't have to choose to buy into that story. And that's my belief and how I like to operate with these big life things because everyone wants to tell you why it's hard, right? Everyone wants to tell you their woes. And for me, it's so much easier to stay in my own lane, put my blinders on, and let my experience be as fluid and flowing as possible. So with that, have a beautiful, beautiful day, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tuning In podcast. As always, if this would resonate with anyone you know, please share the episode. You can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans, or find me on my website at alignful.com.